The rain poured down like the sky was weeping for the world. Cold, relentless, it soaked through her thin jacket as she stood under the flickering neon sign of Joe's Diner. Emily Winters had just finished her third double shift in a row. Her feet ached, her back screamed, and her spirit wavered, but the bills didn't care about any of that. Rent was due. Her mother's medical treatments weren't going to pay for themselves. And college? That dream had long been put on the shelf. Joe's Diner wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. Emily had worked here since she was 19, now 25, with calloused hands, tired eyes, and a heart still too soft for the world. She was the kind of person who remembered birthdays, who slipped free pie to lonely old men, and always smiled, even when she was breaking inside. That night, she was wiping the last of the ketchup-streaked tables when the door swung open with a clang. A man stumbled in, soaked to the bone, wearing what looked like a tuxedo under a drenched overcoat. His eyes were unfocused, his steps wobbly, and the smell of whiskey floated off him in waves. "We're closed," Emily said gently, already reaching for her bag. But the man didn't move. Instead, he slumped into the nearest booth, head in his hands. Emily hesitated. Something about the way he sat there, broken, despite his expensive clothes, tugged at her heart. Maybe it was the way he looked like he had everything, yet still seemed utterly lost. She approached slowly. "Sir, are you okay?" He looked up, and she saw pain written in the lines of his face. "Do I look okay to you?" he mumbled, voice rough, like gravel soaked in grief. Emily could have walked away. She should have, by all reason. But instead, she walked to the kitchen, returned with a warm blanket from the back, a glass of water, and a leftover slice of her favorite homemade cherry pie. "Eat this. You look like you could use something real," she said. He took the pie, blinking at her as if she'd handed him gold. Minutes passed, and slowly, the tension in his shoulders loosened. She sat across from him, not prying, just present. "You're kind," he said after a long pause. "Most people don't look at me like that. They just see the money. Or the name." Emily smiled sadly. "All I see is a man who looks like he's had a rough night." His lips trembled. "I buried my brother yesterday. Cancer. We didn't talk for years. I was too busy building an empire to answer his calls. And now there's nothing." Emily's eyes softened. She reached out and gently placed her hand over his. "Grief has a way of showing up like a storm. And sometimes all we can do is find shelter together." When he finally stood to leave, he almost collapsed. Without thinking, Emily caught his arm. "Come on," she said, her tone firm but kind. "Let's get you home." She didn't know what she was doing, helping a strange, drunk man get into a cab and guiding him to an address he slurred out. She certainly didn't expect his penthouse to be so empty. No warmth, no photos. Just expensive silence. "You live here alone?" she asked. He nodded, eyes unfocused. "Used to be full. Now it's just me." Emily helped him to the couch and tucked a blanket around his shoulders. She made him tea and set it by his nightstand. Before leaving, she scribbled her name and number on a napkin. "In case you need someone to talk to," she said, quietly shutting the door. 1 week passed. Emily returned to her grind, coffee orders, greasy plates, rude customers. The night with the stranger faded into a strange blur, like a dream she hadn't fully understood. Then one afternoon, Joe, the diner's owner, pulled her aside. "Emily, there's someone here to see you. Says it's urgent." She frowned, wiping her hands on her apron as she stepped outside. A sleek black car waited by the curb. The back door opened, and out stepped the same man, clean-shaven, tailored suit, sober eyes. "You," she whispered. He smiled. "Me. I never thanked you properly." "You didn't have to. But I wanted to, he said. That night. I was on the edge. I was lost. And you pulled me back. Not by preaching. Just by being kind. Emily didn't know what to say. He continued, my name is Andrew Hale. I own Hale Corp. And this block, including this diner. Today, I signed over Joe's diner. She blinked. What? It's yours. All of it. The building, the equipment, the name. You're the owner now, Emily. Tears welled up in her eyes. Why would you do that for me? He looked at her with quiet gratitude. Because you did something no one else did. You saw the man, not the money. And you reminded me what it means to be human. Emily stood behind the counter of Emily's diner 1 month later. The sign had changed, but the warmth inside remained. She hired young single mothers, struggling students, and people who needed a second chance. The diner became more than a place to eat. It became a place to heal. She introduced Pay What You Can nights, partnered with local shelters, and held storytime for kids every Saturday morning. Her business model was unconventional. But it worked. Because people could feel the love in the food and the heart in the service. Andrew Hale. He kept showing up. Not just as a benefactor, but as a friend. He ate pancakes at the same corner booth every Sunday, helped wash dishes during rush hour, and sometimes just sat quietly, watching her laugh with the regulars. One snowy evening, as Christmas lights twinkled outside, he sat across from her. You saved me, he said quietly. Emily smiled. You saved me too. I just didn't know it yet. They spent more and more time together, and what began as friendship turned into something deeper. Andrew began to understand life beyond boardrooms and stock prices. He started supporting more community projects, inspired by Emily's unwavering compassion. 3 years later, Emily's diner had 5 branches. Each one run by someone Emily had once hired when no one else would. The brand became a symbol of hope, featured in magazines and talk shows across the country. Emily was invited to speak at conferences about business with compassion. She stood on stages in front of thousands and told them the story of a slice of pie, a napkin, and a second chance. She never forgot that first night. The man who looked like he had everything, but needed someone to remind him of his worth. Andrew became more than a friend. He became her partner in every sense. And on the night he proposed, in the very diner where they first met, he simply said, "To the girl who saved me with pie and kindness." Their wedding was held at the first diner. The chairs were mismatched, the cake was homemade, and instead of champagne, they served Emily's famous strawberry milkshakes. Everyone cried. Everyone laughed. And everyone believed in love again. Sometimes, the smallest acts, serving a stranger, offering warmth, become the seeds of miracles. Sometimes, the person you help at their lowest, is the reason you rise to your highest. And sometimes, in a quiet diner under a stormy sky, lives are changed forever.